We're delighted to have Ryan Scott Foizey with us. Welcome to Two on the Aisle, Ryan.
Thank you very much.
You sort of burst on the theater scene here not that terribly long ago.
Yeah.
First acting, I remember seeing you in a New Line show, and then
Sure.
I turned around and here was Theater Lab appearing, your own company.
Yeah, it happened really quick for me too.
That was good. Well, now you started acting. Which is your thing, or whatever will come up?
I would have to say that I enjoy acting, probably quite a bit more actually than performing. I got my start in performing, but when I moved down to St. Louis, I moved here for the purpose of being in a larger market. And from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Yeah. And
I guess we are a little bigger than Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah. So when I moved down here so that I could be in a larger market, also be near some family. And I knew that it was directing, which was the way that I wanted to go with my theatrical career, but I couldn't very well do that, just bust into the scene without a name and say, here I am, I'm here to direct shows, and people, because then people are going to go, who's this guy? Yeah. So it was really important to establish myself as a performer in the area and give myself a name so that if I decided to start a company and produce shows and direct shows, that maybe there might be a little bit more pull into saying, I'd be interested to see what this guy does, Yeah.
Now, the first show you did was
Crybaby at New Line Theater.
And you had like the lead in that.
Yeah. I got cast in that show. I was really lucky, I felt, to get cast in that show 2 months after I moved here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was 2012, I want to say.
So somebody thought you had talent, obviously.
yeah, Scott Miller, but what does he know?
But this meant singing, I guess.
What's that?
Singing?
Yeah. I've been playing guitar since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family of music lovers, and I play 5 different instruments. I play saxophone and trumpet and guitar, bass and drums. So I was, I grew up nurtured in the music industry with my father, who's also a drummer and a singer. And so I've been singing for quite some time, ever since middle school and high school, and it started with the guitar. I didn't really break into musical theater until after high school, even.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you do theater in high school?
Oh, yeah, I did theater in high school.
Just not musical theater?
Just not musical theater. I mean, well, that's not true. I did Wizard of Oz when I was in high school. I played the Tin Man.
Okay.
But I think that was the only musical I did in high school. Other than that, I did just straight plays. I was in Curious Savage, I think, was my first play on stage.
Everyone picks that up at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I played Hannibal, if you know that character. Yeah.
So you did your first show musical. Your second show was a musical also, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, Bob. I haven't been in a straight show since moving down to St. Louis.
I was thinking that as I was going over them.
Yeah, and I'm really chomping at the bit. I'd really like to be in one. Yeah. But I'm finding myself slowly but surely kind of distancing myself from performance art.
Sure.
I'm really enjoying producing and directing, and I think to myself on a constant basis now since starting Theater Lab, if I took the amount of time that I put into every rehearsal for every show and every performance and every run of a show, and I were to focus that solely on Theater Lab, imagine the sorts of things that I could do with Theater Lab.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of what I'm kind of gearing up to do.
Now, what made you think you were ready to start your own company? I mean, what a crazy idea! Starting your own company.
No, it is absolutely crazy, and it was one of those hindsight 2020.
Yeah. How did it happen?
Well, I was about halfway through the process of producing the Sunset Limited back in 2012 before I realized how crazy what I was doing actually was. Really, what got me started with Theater Lab was knowing that I needed a vehicle, I needed a name in order to produce this show under, because my name didn't have enough clout. And so it's interesting the story of how Theater Lab started, because if I'm being totally honest, and I think this is probably the way it is with a lot of theater artists, is that the conception of any given project usually comes from a very selfish standpoint, and that you are going to get something out of this. This is something that you want to do. So selfishly speaking, I said, I've always wanted to do Sunset Limited. Ever since I read it, I wanted to produce it. I knew I couldn't do it under my name, so I needed sort of a vehicle to do it under. Instead of asking for help, I just said, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And then it was about halfway through that process that I went, what am I doing, And through having discussions with a lot of different artistic directors in town, and speaking with people like Kim Furlow and Christina Rios Kelly and Scott Miller, I realized that there's actually a niche for something like Theater Lab in St. Louis. There's something missing in the communal aspect, and having an actor-driven theater company for people like myself when I was producing Sunset Limited, where I went, okay, well, I've always wanted to do this, but maybe not always have the necessary resources or money or any of that to act as a proper vehicle in order to produce your passion project. So I said, well, what if my company could be that for other people? So the last couple of shows have been for me to direct, to establish the company and sort of give it some notoriety, so to speak. And then we're slowly bleeding into what was originally the mission of Theater Lab, and that's submit your passion projects. You know, toss them at us, see what you got. We'll bring them to the board, and we'll decide what to do.
So the lab part is really the really important part of the name.
Yep, exactly, and that's where it all stemmed from, and we're starting to bleed into that a little bit more. I asked social media a bit ago, right after Pillowman was over. I said, "Okay, directors, what do you got? You know, what have you always wanted to do?" And we got quite a bit of response.
Oh, good. So
which is really nice.
Coming up?
Well, no, things are still in the mix.
Okay, no,
things are still in the
fine.
mix. But I mean,
fine.
you'd be surprised the
Surprises.
amount, the amount of response that we got. You know, Empiro throwed out a few ideas. Joe Henrahan offered up a couple ideas. I was just reached out to by Stephen Pyrick just a few days ago, and so it's really exciting that eyes are on us, and you know that the people and specifically actors in St. Louis are looking to Theater Lab as a sort of vehicle, potentially for us to produce these passion projects, which is
because I wondered why you would call it theater. You know, you say Theater Lab. I thought, oh, I guess they're going to do write their own plays or new experimental plays, and then the two things you've done were scripted plays
well, I mean,
already.
those are full-length productions, sure, but I mean, you can't get much more experimental than the 24-hour Playfest, which we've done 3 times
that's
now.
another thing we want to talk about, too.
Sure.
Yeah, explain what that is all about.
It's much like the 48-hour film festival. What we do is we have what's going to be 7 shows. It started as 5 shows, I think, in the first round. So for the sake of conversation, 5 shows, 5 different St. Louis writers, and then we have 5 genres, we have 5 settings, then we have 5 different combinations of men and women that could possibly be written for. And what we do is we randomly assign all of those things to a writer, and they have 7 days to write a script. And then the Friday before the performance, all the directors and actors gather in the house of the Performance Center, and the directors get their script, and based upon how many men and women are in their script, they draw them out of a hat randomly, and then from that point forward, they have 24 hours to rehearse it, memorize it, produce it, tech it, costume it, stage it, the whole 9 yards. And then the following night at 8 o'clock, you get a parade of performances of 5 brand new original works.
So they're 5 done in one evening. So
5
they're
done in one evening.
Reasonable length to work on in this.
You know, they're between 10 and 15 minutes. Sometimes they would bleed a little long, and they would go to 20 minutes or so. But this time we're putting a strict limit on our writers, saying it has to be 10 pages. If you go over 10 pages, then you give Todd Schaefer and I, the artistic director of Players Project Theater Company, he's a co-producer of it. You give us carte blanche to cut it down so that it has to be 10 minutes, because we're adding another show this time around, and that genre is going to be musical. So we have Scott Miller is going to be writing a musical for us.
Right. Oh, is he? Good.
Yep.
He hasn't written anything for a while.
It hasn't.
Because I've enjoyed a couple of things he's written very much, and I always wondered when he was going to do it again sometime.
And when will this next one be?
The next one's going to be, we do the drawings and everything on August 14th, and the performance will be on August 15th, and that's at Webster Groves High School.
Been delighted to see the work you've done so far, and look forward to what's coming in the future. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today on Two on the Aisle. It's been great to talk with you. A lot more to say with you, I think.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
We'll be watching some of these productions from our 2 Seats on the Aisle.
And we'll be watching the mail and the email for your thoughts about theater and this program, and for items for the calendar.
Send them to 2 on the Aisle, HEC TV, 3221 McKelvey Road, Bridgeton, Missouri 63044, or by email to tota@hectv.org.
Join Deborah Shorn on Mondays at 10:10 p.m. on KDHX FM 88.1 for more news about theater on Break a Leg Theater in St. Louis and beyond, and find more news about all the arts on State of the Arts on HEC TV on Sundays and Thursdays at 7 p.m.
Catch Bob's reviews on KDHX.
Catch Jerry's reviews in the St. Louis Jewish Light, and catch both of us next time on cable and the web for classic musicals and more theater talk.
We'll see you then.